William Seal.
Chairman, happy to take a short call on this bill and agree with my colleagues that in general sense we support the legislation despite the fact that most of us in this House will feel it's undesirable to be supporting retrospective legislation. Notwithstanding our reluctance about it, the reality is, based on the information that's available to us, that we can't be irresponsible, that we've got to move forward in terms of passing this piece of legislation. I then want to congratulate and acknowledge Kapiti District Council for coming forward to this, because I think if it were not for their courage to step forward and identify that maybe a mistake has been made, that we would not be made aware of this. I then want to ask the Minister, given the fact that this is another concern of many of us in this House, the fact that in urgent legislation we sort of sidetrack the ability of the Select Committee stage where we call on members of the public to have an input into legislation. And by and large, all of us agree that that unique process that we have involving the Select Committee enables good quality legislation to be passed. And therefore, I hope the Minister doesn't mind, because I think it is important that we spend a bit of time looking through the departmental disclosure statement as well as the regulatory impact statement. And for my benefit, it's noted that on 27th May, the Council advised the police, and I would be interested to know a blow by blow what exactly happened. I'm sort of thinking, if this was an urgent situation and it was notified to the police in the end of May of this year, could we not have brought this forward? Or is where we find ourselves now debating this close to the end of July is simply because of the events that took place? Secondly, I note also in the bill that whilst the bill in its second part validates related amendments, I note that in the departmental disclosure statement, in the impact statement, it makes reference to legislation going back to 1974. But yet in part 2, it does not refer to validating the legislation which also gave rise, and I quote from the regulatory impact statement on page 3, where it says, subsequently by 2007, uncertainty had arisen concerning the extent to which territorial authorities could make use of the provisions of Local Government 2002 to create speed limits, and then recent research revealed that judicial decisions that cast doubt on the use of the Local Government Act 1974 provisions to set to a speed limit. So, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm simply saying, if the matter goes back to legislation 1974 and part 2, which validates related amendments and legislation, does not contain any reference to 1974, are we covering our T's and I's or not? That's simply the questions I'd like to ask. And as I said, because we are in urgency and because we're not going through the Select Committee process, which gives us the benefit of ensuring that we have the benefit of contribution from the wider community and benefit of local government New Zealand as well, it would be nice for us to spend a bit of time trying to ensure that we're not coming back here in a month's time or a year's time again going over validating what we failed to validate this time around. So I'm hopeful that the Minister is able to respond to those questions.